Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we'll be starting part 2 of our little mini stream series going over some of the theme park trips I took this summer. Last episode we did Carowinds, albeit a little scuffed. However, I got a slightly shorter one this time. This time we are focusing on Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay. I will say, this is my home park. I grew up going to this park all the time. And as a result, I am very familiar with the old coasters of this park. Since I'm a coaster junkie, I really grew up with the sort of inversion-heavy B&Ms that the park is known for. And as a result, I didn't really experience some of the other types of coasters like, the Hypers and the Gigas that I got to experience at other parks, like Carowinds this summer. However, that still means there are reasons to come back. Now that I actually got back from my summer trip to Tennessee, I wanted to ride a specific coaster at Busch Gardens. And of course, if any of you have been there recently, you know that would be Iron Gwazi. Now, Gwazi, the original coaster, was a dueling wooden coaster for some reason, although they took the dueling aspect out of it pretty quickly. And my family hated it because it's, a rough wooden coaster, which makes sense. But I really liked it. I'm a fan of coasters that just mess me up and make me feel terrible afterwards. As long as they don't, have terrible restraints. And I love the old Gwazi. So when I knew they were closing it, I was kind of pissed. And I was wondering what they were going to do with the site. Because they left the old coaster standing for a while. When they finally tore it down, that's when the rumors started, and eventually, I found out that they were gonna make this new one, Iron Gwazi. And I heard it was an RMC, or a Rocky Mountain Construction. I didn't know too much about ride manufacturers at that time. I still kind of don't. But I heard, they were good at taking old wooden coasters that weren't doing too hot and completely reimagining them. So I was still a bit hesitant to see what they would do with it. So, after I got back this summer, my goal was to ride, and I did. That was one of the only things I did during my trip after this summer, because I only went for a day, actually half a day. It was really hot that day, so we wanted to get out of the park. I went with my sister, but, so yeah, Iron Gwazi. I was hesitant going into it. They kept the old station building from the old Gwazi, and you can still see the old place where the second coaster would come out of the station. They just barred it up. But we got on, and oh my god. It's one of my favorite coasters of all time. They did such a good job with Iron Gwazi. And just look at that drop right there. That drop is insane. I forgot if it was 90 or slightly over 90, but they... And again, just looking at the way they built it, the wooden supports along with the metal track, I've never seen a coaster, especially the lift hill and drop, built like that. That's just such a weird design to me. But it's a long coaster. That's the best part. I hate really, really short roller coasters. The other ride I rode in the park that day, because the lines were way too long and we could only get on two, was Sheikra. And I like Sheikra. It's a good B&M. It's just, Sheikra's way too short. And yeah, the drop's great, but and the drop's about it. There's a second smaller drop there, but it's just almost too smooth. But this one throws you everywhere, has a lot of overbanks. Some the inversions they do are amazing. This is just a great ride. It's one of my favorite coasters of all time, and it's my favorite in the park. So I'm glad that they got rid of the old Gwazi. It was showing its age. And I hope Iron Gwazi continues to be really popular. So, I bet you're wondering now what else happened. So again, I only was able to ride Sheikra because just the lines for the rest of the place just were too much for us to want to wait in. We didn't want to stay there too long. So, aside from that, plus I had been on all the other rides, a ton. It used to be my favorite park, or my favorite ride in the park was Kumba in the back of the park. That's one you see in a lot of the old promotional images with the double corkscrew. But it was, I don't know. My sister didn't like that one either, so we didn't ride it. But this time, but yeah. And then they also added a new coaster a few years back called Tigress, which is a weird like looping one where it goes through the station a few times on this really weird looking layout. But I did like that. We didn't do it this time though, again because of lines. But usually when I went a few earlier times before I left for the summer, it was pretty good. And the only thing is the restraints are kind of weird. I don't really like the comfort collars they use as the part of the restraint system. But aside from that, the coaster lineup, has just been solid for the most part. Manchu's great. It's a great dangling coaster. Of course, Kumba. Cheetah Hunt's great for speed. It's not really airtime, just more so speed. Because it's not a hyper coaster or anything. It's just weird. But I will say, this is a little tangent, and I guess I'd just throw it in here. But a while back, Busch Gardens opened up a coaster called Cobra's Curse. And I went with a friend, I think when it opened like a few years ago, a little after it opened. And the weird thing was, Busch Gardens, they don't really theme their coasters too much. The only theming the park has is, it's Africa. It's basically Africa, the park, and all the lands are based off of parts of Africa. But this one was different because it wasn't the Egypt area, but they actually gave a ride-specific theme. And I was really impressed by the theming they did. It reminds me of sort of like The Mummy in Universal, where they actually had indoor portions of the queue. They had exhibits. They had a snake exhibit inside of it, and then they had all this theming in the queue, and they told a story in the queue of this cursed to dig site and whatnot. And then they actually had a pre-show that blew me away. Cobra's Curse has an actual pre-show. You can look it up on YouTube if you want, and it's this snake god coming back to life to zap all the people to death or whatever, blah blah blah. And they built the giant snake outside of the coaster. In fact, here, let me look it up here. So there we go. That's it. Yeah, that's a good picture. Of course, it's a YouTube thumbnail I'm pulling up here, someone else's video. But here, let me just show you all what the outside of this ride looks like. Look at that. Look at that. So they themed it really well, and the ride had an elevator. It lifts you up in this weird double elevator where it'll go like this. It straight up moves you sideways so the two elevator cars can go above each other. And I had never seen that before. So it's groundbreaking in that term, and it was a spinning coaster. So I'm like, they're going to knock this out of the park. And then we finally get onto the coaster after a long wait, and this pre-show, hyping us up. You get to the top of this elevator, and then the snake guy here says, I have you now, or some generic-ass villain thing. And then the coaster sucks. I'm sorry, but the coaster's just ass. And it was such a letdown, because they built you up so much. Busch Gardens never does theming, or at least in Tampa. And they never do theming. They did all this theming now. And it was just, hyping you up so much. And then the coaster itself is so disappointing. Because then, it's not even, the rotating barely happens, at least when I'm in it. I know it's, weight balancing. But it just, the way the layout of the coaster works doesn't take advantage of the spinning, in my opinion. You just don't get near enough, almost none. And then halfway through the ride, which is very short, it's an extremely short ride, which I don't like. You go on this little, downward section where it rotates all the cars backwards, and you go backwards for, 20 seconds or something, and then the ride ends. Or it's just, no, I don't like it. So, again, Busch Gardens has been hit or miss with the new coasters they've opened. Because this one was kind of ass, even though they put good theming into it. And then Tigress was decent, even though it's a shorter ride. But, here, let me pull up Tigress, too. Let me get you all look at that. Oh, that's not a good picture. 1 second. Where is it? There it is. So look at this. I like the layout of that. That's a pretty good layout. Like, because again, it goes through the station in this just weird, non-geometrically symmetric layout. And it goes really slow over that little top portion right here. But I like that one. Even though the restraint system is weird, it's that sort of comfort collar thing that doesn't feel too good on your legs. They have the same system in Icebreaker at SeaWorld, and I don't like it. Like, it's even worse at Icebreaker. Here it's okay. But again, the main thing is Iron Gwazi. That is going to carry the park now. But aside from the coasters, the last few things we did is we were hungry, we wanted to get some food. And so we were in like the central part of the park where Falcon's Fury was. We weren't able to ride Falcon's Fury, the big drop tower, because it was being worked on. I think it still has work going on it right now, some maintenance. But right next to it is a pretzel place, a special one, like not even branded. It's their own pretzel place. And I remember I loved going there in the past and getting the bacon pretzel fury they had. It was like this twist pretzel thing around a stick, and then there's like big strips of bacon inside of it, and it was amazing. And there was a really good beer cheese you could get with it. And the last time I was there before this summer, the store was closed, and I was pissed about that because I really wanted the bacon pretzel fury. And I saw it was open this time, so I'm like, hell yeah! So I'm gonna go and get it. I went in there, looked at the hot bar where they had all the stuff out, and I didn't see it. So I asked them, where's the bacon pretzel fury? And they're like, we took that out years ago. What? I mean, that blew my mind. Had I not been to the park in that long? I don't think I hadn't. So it was gone, apparently. And I was just heartbroken because I love that pretzel. I mean, I ended up just getting just a generic ass pretzel instead that they had with like cheese because they didn't even have the beer cheese anymore. It's just a generic, really cheap cheese. They downgraded the cheese they had. So I sat there and it was just mid. At that point, an Auntie Anne's or even a Wetzel's would have been better. So I don't know. It was disappointing. I really wanted that bacon pretzel fury if you couldn't tell. So aside from that, that was pretty much this trip to Busch Gardens. So I have a lot of good memories of it. I have some more recent not so good memories. Overall, still a strong park. They care a lot about maintenance. Park looks pretty. Have a lot of interesting animals. Um, and it's weird that it started out as a brewery and then they got rid of the brewery. But it's one of the most unique or more unique parks I've been to. And I'm glad it was my home park. And I hope this new Iron Gwazi and the other developments they're bringing to the park will keep it going strong for a while. So, yeah, that was basically my recent experiences with Busch Gardens Tampa, as well as some of my childhood impact from it. So, I don't know which park I'll do in the next video in the series, but I should be making these into a playlist. So, we'll see.